Hi, this is the second short lecture on Chapter 2, and we'll be wrapping up this chapter by discussing irony and different types of irony. The key thing to understand about irony is simply that there's a discrepancy, and that discrepancy is either between what is said and what is meant, or what is expected and what actually happens. The book gives us three types of irony: verbal irony, the discrepancy between what is said and what is meant. So the speaker or writer says the opposite of what they really mean. Dramatic irony, where the reader or audience recognizes the larger implications of a character's words or actions, even the situation the character finds themselves in, but the character doesn't recognize the larger implications. And then finally, cosmic irony, or irony of fate, where there's a contrast between the character's position or often their aspiration, what they want to have happen, and what really ends up happening, the treatment that they receive at the hands of fate. To look at the different types of irony, I thought that we could work with a poem by Thomas Hardy that in your textbook is on pages 38 and 39. The poem is The Workbox. The Workbox. See, here's the workbox, little wife, that I made of polished oak. He was a joiner of village life, she came a borough folk. He holds the present up to her as with a smile she nears, and answers to the proffer, "'Twill last all my sewing years. I warrant it will, and longer too. 'Tis a scantling that I got off poor John Wayward's coffin, who died of they know not what. The shingled pattern that seems to cease against your box's rim continues right on in the piece that's underground with him. And while I worked, it made me think of timber's varied doom. 1 inch where people eat and drink, the next inch in a tomb. But why do you look so white, my dear, and turn aside your face? You knew not that good lad, I fear, though he came from your native place. How could I know that good young man, though he came from my native town, when he must have left far earlier than I was a woman grown? Ah, no, I should have understood. It shocked you that I gave to you one end of a piece of wood, whose other is in a grave. Don't, dear, despise my intellect. Mere accidental things of that sort never have effect on my imaginings. Yet still her lips were limp and wan, her face still held aside, as if she had known not only John, but known of what he died. So let's do a quick summary of this poem. We have a joiner, a carpenter, who has made a small workbox for his wife, and he's made it with leftover wood from a coffin that he's built for a man who came from his wife's same town and who has died. And when he presents his wife with what he thinks is a lovely gift, she appears to be quite stricken, and the poem suggests that she may have known John Wayward and may even have known what he died and does not want her husband to know about this. All right, so this is the fun part. What are the different types of irony we see at work here? Well, given the situation, there's definitely dramatic irony, because as the poem goes on and the husband is trying to figure out why his wife looks so stricken, he never seems to actually understand that she may have had a relationship with John Wayward. The reader, of course, picks up on this. And John Wayward's name in and of itself has a lot of potential irony, at least some symbolism, that Wayward, he left the town before, theoretically, the wife was old enough to have known him. So he was wayward, but also he may have engaged in some wayward activities. Now, if we think about the wife who has her domestic life, she has her marriage, she's in a different town, There's potential cosmic irony because her position as a respectable wife could be compromised by a past relationship or past indiscrepancies. At least we know that she's not forthcoming with her husband, so there's something there that she doesn't want him to know about. And really, what are the chances that her husband would end up building a coffin for this man she's possibly had a relationship with, and then build her a workbox, and thereby bringing that past into the present? There are also instances of verbal irony, and I'm thinking about this penultimate stanza, the second from the last. Don't, dear, despise my intellect, mere accidental things, pause, of that sort, never have effect on my imaginings. So there's the suggestion that accidental things of another sort, for example, this workbox or sewing box, might have a pretty intense effect on her imaginings. Finally, the word workbox itself in the title, I think, is very important. This is going to be a sewing box, something to hold materials to mend things, but ironically, the work that it does in this instance is not mending, although it does bring together her past and her present, but it potentially destabilizes that present and might be undoing it. I would leave you with one last thought about this poem, and that is the coffin wood that's used, the wood for the coffin and for the workbox, and to think about what metaphorical deaths might be alluded to in this poem. You can check out the rest of the chapter, several other poems there that display one or more types of irony, and see if you can identify those.